Hi, Jeremy Crow here. In this video I wanted to talk a little bit about some of my experience with the OTO, or the Ordo Templi Orientis. Now this is a Masonic style organization. At one point it used to be like an appendant body to Freemasonry, or it was intended as such, at least at one point. And it was started by Theodore Roos, and later Aleister Crowley was one of the early members, and he ended up taking the top leadership position, the top human leadership position at least, and he ended up rewriting all of the rituals. So at this point, people generally consider it to be Aleister Crowley's order, esoteric order. And now he had more than one esoteric order out there, but this was his Masonic style esoteric order. And it's kind of broken off. There have been more than one kind of splinter groups that have formed from this. And so there's a group called the Typhonian OTO. And so sometimes people refer to this mainstream group, the largest membership group of the OTO, as the Caliphate OTO. And now they don't like it when you call it that, because they say it's not Caliphate OTO, it's just OTO. We're the real OTO. But I like using it because it bugs them. And so I hung around with a lot of the members. I actually initially had gone to a public event that they had hosted, and it was called the Ars Magica Literary Society. And this was OTO members that were having public non-OTO event, and it was in the back of a pub, and it was just kind of fun. They would start off with some sort of banishing ritual to open the event, and that would be like the lesser banishing ritual, the pentagram, or the Crowley's version of that, which would be the Star Ruby, or they would have something more exotic as their banishing ritual or opening ritual that somebody would perform at the beginning of the event. And then there was a bunch of fun things. They would have poetry readings. They would have, I remember one time going there and they had like a quiz show where some of the people from the audience came up and had to answer questions, and whoever got the most right then got some kind of prize. And there were draws, I think, too, and I won a couple things from it before, just, you know, magical items or interesting little occult things, and it was fun, and I met some cool people there. And later I ended up running into one of the people that I had met a couple times at Ars Magica. Like, maybe it had been like a year since I'd done any of the public events that they had put on, and I saw a couple people, and I was like, I think I recognize that guy. And then he left this is on a streetcar, on a trolley in Toronto, and he left, and I saw the guy that he was talking with pull out a book, and it had, I think it was a unicursal hexagram, or maybe it was the OTO lawman, or layman, or whatever you want to call it, the symbol of the OTO, which has the Vesica Pisces and the dove, and that symbol on the spine of the book that he had pulled out of his bag. And I was like, okay, yeah, that was the guy that I knew. And so I went and I approached him, the remaining guy who I didn't recognize, who had the book, and I said, oh, I noticed a symbol on your book. And he goes, oh, you want to take a look? And I said, oh, cool. And I was like, I thought that was and I checked, and it was the OTO symbol. And I was like, oh, I thought that was the OTO symbol. Your friend, I thought I recognized him, but I wasn't sure until I saw that thing on your book. And we ended up striking up a friendship. And I ended up hanging around with a bunch of OTO members just casually as friends. And I started going to the public meetings again. And we got, pretty involved with doing our own independent private rituals together sometimes. It wasn't under the OTO auspices of the OTO or anything. But there was about 4 of us or so that would regularly get together, and we would do ritual for fun and such. And eventually I decided, you know what, I'm going to join the OTO and learn more about what my friends have been studying and practicing. So I joined as a Minerval, which is the 0 degree, they call it. Now, some people say you're not a member if you're just Minerval, but you have to pay membership dues, and there's a formal ceremonial initiation that's performed that brings you into the organization. So to me, it's a member, but some people refer to it more like you're engaged, but you haven't actually gotten married yet. Or some people refer to it even less seriously. Maybe they say you're just courting. It's the courting phase. But to me, it's a member. You're a member. You're paying dues. You were ceremonially initiated and such. So I got initiated in Toronto in Triumphant Lodge. Now, or not lodge, I think it was just, camp? I think the first level, if I remember correctly, is camp. And then once you hit a certain level of established group, then you can be upgraded to the level of Oasis. And actually, just before I went inactive in the OTO, I became inactive in the OTO 9 months after joining. Just before that, we were just waiting on the approval for... Actually, we had just gotten approval to upgrade our local group to Oasis, the next level up, and then the one above that would be Lodge, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't matter the terms. We were a local group, and we were very active. I think we were doing every single week we would have a meeting, and at least 2 per month were open to the public. So it was very active. Now, the weird thing is that there was already a local body in Toronto that had been there for a long time, but it had been inactive for a very long time, like at least a few years. They hadn't done anything. No Gnostic Mass, no local meetings, no regular meetings at all. And so some of the people were frustrated, and they managed to get a charter for a local body that they named Triumphant, ironically enough, because it was ultimately shut down. But it was great. It was inspiring, very active. We were learning all kinds of fun things together. We would pick a particular book, and we would work through it chapter by chapter, and it was like kind of like a book club. Part of some of the meetings were like a book club meeting, and we would talk about what happens in that chapter, and we would discuss some of the nuances. And then other meetings, we would have full-on rituals, and like I said, some of them were public and some of them were not. And so we were very active, and actually every meeting we would send an invite to the members of Amon-Ra. That was the local lodge that had pre-existed Triumphant. And I'm using the word lodge as a generic term because I don't want to have to worry about these camp Oasis things. But we would invite all the members of Amon-Ra Lodge and to all of the meetings. And we would almost never got anybody to come to them. They had kind of a grudge against us anyways. And which was weird because they weren't doing anything. They weren't doing anything except for ignoring our invites. A couple people did end up joining. Or not joining, but being very active in Triumphant, who were from Amon-Ra Lodge. But I actually participated in one of the Minerval initiations as one of the officers, one of the principal officers of the initiation. There's only 2 main officers in that initiation. There's the person who plays the leader role, and then somebody who plays the role of Blackguard, it's called, and that's kind of like Tyler or something along those lines. So I played Blackguard, even though I was only Minerval, but it was kind of out of necessity because we had a limited membership, and I was somebody who had a lot of experience in ritual, including very elaborate initiations, like in Freemasonry and such. So I was somebody that was good at doing those things, and I took that role in one of the initiations, which was really fun. So we were very active, and ultimately, I guess somebody pissed somebody off, and there was a bit of drama there, some personal drama, and so it got reported back to international headquarters that we were running a local body, that's what they called the lodge, the generic term for a lodge, in Toronto when there was already an established one. Even though that other one wasn't active, the head of the order at the time, I think it was Bill Breeze, I think it was a person, but that was the head of the order at the time, but I'm not sure. Anyways, he had been initiated in Amon Ra as when he first joined the order, back when he joined the OTO, and he, I guess, had sentimental attachment to it, or maybe it was some sort of procedural thing. But anyways, he shut down the very active Triumphant Lodge and allowed Amon Ra Lodge to remain, to have their charter remain, even though they hadn't been active in years. And that really put a bad taste in my mouth. And I was scheduled, I had been approved, and I had even paid my initiation fee for the first degree. And they said, well, I can understand why if you don't want to get it done at Amon Ra Lodge. And I did feel a bit, I didn't really want them to initiate me because they had been ignoring all of our invites, and they weren't active anyway, so that wasn't even an option. But they said you can do your initiation in the Buffalo Lodge, Buffalo, New York. And I liked a lot of the people that were at Buffalo because I had visited that lodge multiple times, and it was pretty cool, and there was some really cool members there. But the whole thing really just put a bad taste in my mouth over the whole thing, and I decided, you know what, I'm done. And there's a lot of criticisms that could be made for the OTO, so it wasn't just that one thing that made me decide not to, but it was kind of the big blow that I was like, you know what, you're gonna shut down the most active, positive lodge that we have here in Toronto, the only thing going really, and over what? Over some personal drama some individuals had with each other, some personal beefs that some people had. It really struck me as authoritarian, and it was somebody that I'd never even met. I'd never even met Bill Breeze, and he wasn't even in the same country. He didn't even live in Canada. So it just struck me as authoritarian and petty, and I said, you know what, I'm done. And that's when I quit the OTO. But I did have a lot of fun during it, and I enjoyed a lot of the stuff that I participated in, and met some really cool people during it. And so that's basically my experience in a nutshell with the Ordo Templi Orientis. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel, because I do videos like this quite often, usually at least 2 videos a week. Sometimes I'll do live streams, and YouTube pretty much demonetizes every single video I put out now. So if you could hit the like button, that would really help with the YouTube algorithm, so that my video will actually get recommended to some people and show up in searches here and there. But until next time, everybody, stay lucid.